Goldphyre Resources ASX GPH is a minerals explorer in Western Australia, focusing on the Lake Wells Potash project. Joining me via Skype is Executive Chairman Matt Shackleton. Hello, Matt.
G'day, Tim. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Now, you've just got a lot of news out to market today regarding the Lake Wells Potash project. And can you give us an idea of the size of this project in terms of tonnage-wise?
Yeah, Tim, we were in the fortunate position today of releasing our maiden exploration target for the Lake Wells Potash project. The good thing about this project so far is that every time we ask questions of it, it answers in spades. So we've today released an exploration target using a total in situ brine content of between 79 and 123 million tonnes, and using a specific yield measure which takes into account the recoverability of the potash contained within that brine. We've got an exploration target that ranges from 6 million tonnes up to 37 million tonnes at grades of about 9 kilos per cubic metre up to about 12 to 13 kilos per cubic metre. So some fairly good metrics there.
I think, it's very important to put this in perspective for people who aren't aware of the value of the product itself. Now, delivered to the gate, we're looking around about $1,000 a tonne for this product.
Yeah, that's right.
And so when you're talking even at 6 million tonnes or 10 million tonnes, which is right on the low end of what you've got there, you're still talking a very formidable amount of product and a high value.
That's right, Tim, that's right. The in situ value of the resource is, as you say, pretty high. One of the factors, though, that we here at Goldphyre are focusing on is it's really important that our investors and our shareholders and all the people associated with us understand that the important thing for us is to get to an early development phase with our project. What we're focusing on, instead of concentrating on developing an enormous resource and accumulating tonnes of brine purely for the sake of accumulating tonnes of brine, if you like, what we're really trying to do is get a good, high-quality core to this project that we can start developing early. The beauty of a brine project is that the actual process to go through and measure it is significantly reduced vis-a-vis a hard rock minerals project. By virtue of the homogeneity of the project, I mean the brines are essentially of the same concentration throughout our project area, and we're also in a fortunate position of being located very favourably. We have infrastructure at the project already, so we don't have to build roads and we don't have to build airports and so on. And we're also close to what is most likely going to be our potential market. Goldphyre's said from the very beginning that it's targeting the domestic demand for SOP.
And so in terms of domestic demand, you're talking about farmers who use this to supplement the nutrients in the ground to grow crops.
That's exactly right. Every plant that grows on the face of the planet needs potassium, one of the 3 macro nutrients that every plant needs. Unfortunately for Australia hasn't produced any potassium since about 1952, and it has to import every tonne of potassium that's required by the farmers to produce all their crops. So what's been happening is the overseas suppliers, there's a cartel that controls the potash market around the world, and the cartel's been funneling potash into Australia at the costs associated with getting it landed in Australia, which, as you quite rightly point out, for SOP means that by the time it gets to the farmers, they're paying upwards of $1,000 a tonne for it. Now, there aren't many farmers in Australia who can produce crops with significant margins or margins that are big enough to handle $1,000 a tonne for fertiliser. It puts them in the invidious position of either not using sulphate of potash as the source of potassium and being forced to use potassium chloride, which is another potash type source of potassium, but comes with chlorine atom associated with the molecule. Now, that's fine if you've got chlorine-tolerant crops, but in Australia, where we've got naturally saline soils for the vast majority of our wheat.
So it doubles the problem with your salt build-up on the land, in the soil.
That's exactly right. So SOP is a much better product to use. you could almost say that most of the farmers in Australia, if they had the choice between MOP and SOP, the chlorine product versus the sulphate product, at equivalent prices, they're always going to go with the sulphate product because it's not putting chlorine in their soils.
Okay, let's get back to the what Goldphyre's doing. In the fairly short term, you're doing some evaporation trials, and as well you're doing some more drilling and seismic. And drilling's not like drilling into, you know, hard rock. Or we're talking fairly soft and a reasonably fast drilling program, I'd imagine.
Yeah, well, unfortunately it is. I mean, it is very soft, but that comes with its own issues. What we are doing on our project now, and our geologists and hydrologists are up in the field today. So we expect our drill rig to turn up tomorrow. We're planning somewhere between 1,500 to 2,000 metres of diamond drilling. Now, we've been out there and drilled our project before, and one of the issues we had was that we needed to use a reasonably lightweight rig that could get out onto the salt lake surface, but with the lightness of the rig comes a lack of power. So we weren't able actually to drill down to the basement rock underlying this lake. On this campaign, we're going to be able to do that because we're using a much more powerful diamond rig. Now, we will drill down to about 170 metres is the maximum depth that we've got in our paleochannel system.
Which isn't deep, really. Which isn't deep for a drilling program.
Deep. No, it's not particularly deep, but it does make it one of the deepest paleochannel systems in the country. So with that depth comes an enormous resource, as our exploration target's identifying today. Now, we'll be recovering some core out of that program, which is going to allow us to do some, for want of a better description, some metallurgical test work on that, on the sediments that are filling up this paleochannel. It's going to allow us to get right down to the bottom and identify the basal sands at the bottom of our paleochannel system, which is the very permeable material that we want, the very porous material that we want to find, because that's where we're going to get all our brines from. At the same time, though, we're going to continue with our seismic program because that's proven to be very successful for us out at Lake Wells, in that we are in an Archean setting, so the bedrock is very, very hard and it's very, very easy to detect with seismic waves. So we're going to continue that program. To date, we've identified about 22 Ks of this paleochannel, and we're expecting with the current, with the seismic program we're about to do, we're expecting to identify potentially another 20 to 30 Ks of it, which is going to give us that real critical mass that's going to drive a big resource number, which we're expecting to put out around about June.
Now, I know we can't really talk numbers until you've got a JORC compliant estimate, but do you have a JORC status right now on your asset?
Well, we don't. I mean, the exploration target has been prepared along guidelines provided by JORC. Unfortunately, JORC is really quite silent on how you deal with a brine or a liquid resource. So we're using as our reference standard the Canadian one, the NI 43101, which does give you some guidance on how you report on a brine resource. But I mean, it's an exploration target. So our first compliant resource will be, as I say, we'll be putting that out in June.
Great. So following June, what would be the program from, say, June through to December?
Following the June resource, it's just to be a question of de-risking that resource as we move it up the category. So we're aiming for an inferred resource first up, and then we will be back out in the field. We're looking to put in 2, potentially 3 test bores. There's quite a bit of work involved in putting those bores in because they're much bigger than the current, the current drill holes that we're putting in, much larger diameter, need a different type of machine and so on. But we'll put 2 or 3 of those in, and then we'll start monitoring how much this system can actually yield. At the end of the day, you can do as much academic and scientific work as you like, but the real truth comes from whether or not the aquifers themselves can yield what we need them to yield. So that program will be ongoing through the second half of this year.
Well, for investors watching, Goldphyre Resources, ASX GPH in Western Australia. Really, Matt, really looking forward to seeing the drill results come back and the seismic coming back very shortly. Matt Shackleton, Executive Chairman for Goldphyre Resources, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Tim. Good to speak to you, and look forward to updating you in June.